Well, hello there. My name's Mike Squires, and this is the Couchers Podcast, episode number 170. And we are, you know what? It's Drummer Awareness Month, or as I like to say, Drummer Awareness Month at Couch Riffs. And I realized, too late that I needed to pick up the pace. You know what that was? That was the pick up the pace alarm. Pick up the tempo and bring me on home. So, uh, so we're running a little over. We're gonna spill over. This bar of 4 is gonna be a bar of 7. That's a drummer joke. So, my guest on this episode is Matt Muckle. Just like God, this guy blew my mind when he submitted his drum part for the "When Will I Be Loved" episode that came out in January, I think, maybe February, January probably. He's an incredible drummer, deeply soulful drummer, deep pocket, just like filthy groove. It is a pleasure to hear him drum. And I had a great time talking to him. I hope that you enjoy this conversation. Go give him a follow on social media and enjoy his drumming for yourself. At Matt Muckle, Muckle. That's right. So I hope you, like I said, I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. If you are enjoying the Couchers podcast, please, 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 please support us at Patreon. Patreon.com/couchriffs. Your support goes 100% directly to making this podcast happen, these videos happen, and the cover songs happen. Do you know why they sound good? Because I pay someone to make them sound good. I can't do that. I don't have this. Most people don't have the skills to do that. So your support goes a long way toward making this happen. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're great. I would love to mention that this guitar that you've heard me talk about on the podcast, this beautiful, beautiful guitar, oh mama, is in production and available at some independent guitar stores now, including River City Guitars and The Guitar Shop, New York City, located in Brooklyn, the La Bella showroom. So, these two places are the only places you can get it. You cannot buy this guitar direct. That was kind of part of our plan. This whole thing came together last summer when there was a lot of uncertainty in the world, certainly in retail, and so we wanted to support small shops, and especially small shops that we loved and that were cool as hell. So, River City Guitars and the Guitar Shop, New York City. I'd like to thank River City Guitars also for being a constant supporter of Couch Riffs. If you are looking to sell a unique vintage or just interesting used instrument or amplifier, shoot them an email, sales.rivercityguitars.com. Sales.rivercityguitars@gmail.com. Their website, rivercityguitars.com. Their social media at River City Guitars. Make sure to include a photo. They're buying every day. They're buying collections, single pieces. They're just buying. Every day is a buying day. Thank you, River City Guitars. We love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. It's really not that hard, And it would make the world a better fucking place. There he is. Connecting to audio.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing?
what's up, handsome?
What's happening?
Hey, is there crazy latency with my in ear? Like,
Yeah, man. There's a bunch of digital witchcraft going on between me and moving and your ear hole and vice versa, and they just, you know, everything's fake. Everything's make believe anyway.
It's fake. It's all fake. Let me see if the other one works. Hold on, let me see.
No, it works great.
Good. Okay, good. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. So what's shaking,
You know
sir?
what they say? If it ain't broke,
Don't fix it.
don't break it.
Don't break it. I break things, man. I'm bad. I'm badly.
I've
Break
gone
things.
through
I don't.
some periods of breaking things. Oh, look there! I get to meet your dog.
Hey, look. This is Miss Georgia Blue. That
Aw,
was
GB.
beautiful.
Hello, GB. Hi.
Hi.
It's,
She's an angel. She is. Yeah, we call her everything but Georgia. It's it's like she we call her little girl and angel. That's kind of what she is. Just a sweetheart, man. She's a little rescue from. She's from Georgia, you know.
huh.
But yeah, she's a good one, man. You know. And we do. Her name is. Can you see this right here? We call her Tits Moran.
Yeah.
It's she had like, dude, listen, she had. I think what happened was, she had like she was like in a puppy mill or whatever, and
Yeah.
she escaped. And I think she had like 3 litters in her. She escaped. She was like a little street whore. She was knocked up on the streets, and she escaped from there. And she had her puppies in a little in a I think it was a little rescue or a pound down in Georgia, and so and they got rid of her puppies, and they said like they're gonna have to like put her down because they couldn't keep her any longer.
Yeah.
So I was like, so anyway, my dog died last July, and he traveled with me everywhere, man. He was the man. His name was Motley St. Crew. So so this little girl, I didn't really want to get on her dog, but she was like her. She's just a sweetheart. Just love her. So anyway, I was blessed with this thing, and yeah, here we are.
Wow.
So this is it, man.
Hey,
Do you have any?
do you have your phone sitting vertically?
It's vertically. Should I do it the other way?
Will you set it horizontally? Oh,
Yeah, how about that?
this way. Uh
Let me hear. Let me do this one.
oh.
Here,
Oh,
1 second. I got you. Hold on 1 second. Hold
okay. Yeah,
on. 1 second. 1 second.
it'll fill up the frame a little better this way.
Good. Hold on 1 second.
All
Let
right.
me let me fix this up here. Oh. Yeah, I'm upside down. Here we go. How about let's see
Hello.
how it goes here.
Oh,
Let's see how this goes.
the camera is still locked.
Let's see how about this.
So you're sideways here.
Oh, really?
Well, that's
Weird.
peculiar.
Huh.
Is the orientation of your camera locked so that it doesn't go sideways when you turn your phone sideways?
That's a good question. I don't know. When I
It's
first when I
not that
turned
big of a deal.
no, because what happened was I when I turned my phone sideways, I went right side up.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Eh,
I'll have to
doesn't
check
matter.
it out.
Doesn't
Hey,
matter.
so Mike, so you take this interview and you edit it? Is that what you do?
I mean, I'm gonna do very little editing. Yeah. This is
Oh, oh,
our conversation is just is a natural conversation.
hmm.
Um, and that's it. Like
That's good.
we're here to get into it, and with the idea that like we're not gonna hopefully neither of us are gonna say anything that we'll regret because it's gonna live in perpetuity.
Yeah. I hope I haven't. I've been known to say a few stupid things, man, in my past. So,
Me too. Uh,
Mike, so how's your week been? Everything going well?
yeah, it was a busy week. It continues to be busy. It's been a busy weekend. I
That's good.
worked sun up to sundown or beyond sundown yesterday and
Yeah.
same today, and I'll
Mhm.
do the same thing for the next 3 days. But then my wife and I are gonna climb in the truck and we're gonna have a trip. We're gonna have ourselves a little
Where are you
weekend.
going? Do you know where you're going?
We're gonna go to Cape Cod. Yeah,
Oh, I love it. It's awesome there.
yeah, it's amazing, beautiful.
How far are you from Cape Cod?
A few hours, couple, yeah, 3 hours I think is how far we'll be.
So you're in what part of New York are you in?
We're in the Hudson Valley. We're between
Oh,
Hudson and we're very close to Hudson, not far from Albany. Yeah.
so okay, okay. So I'm just trying to think. How far are you from the city?
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you born and raised in the Albany area, or is that where you're?
No, man, I'm from Seattle. I'm born in
You
California,
are for that's right. That's right.
moved to
That's right.
Washington, and sort of grew up in Washington, like did junior high school and high school there, and then, you
Uh,
know, did some.
I love Seattle. I think it's beautiful. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'm toured through there a bunch of times. I've actually even had we were out with mm, I was I was like road managing and drumming and driving the van with the trailer. I was the only sober one. And this girl that was independent artist, and she and we toured with Candlebox through there, and we that's her hometown, of course. So we
Yeah.
and I told the roadies, listen, whatever you do, we're in the market district there, whatever. I said, don't leave anything sitting out in the van. I
Oh
said, and this young kid, oh dude, they wiped the whole van out. They actually they're ripping their they had the, they had they had the what do you call it, the trailer like tipped on its like on the curb like halfway. I mean, they were really going for it,
they're
you
trying
know.
to yeah, oh, no, they'll take the headliner out of the van if they can, if they think they can get some dough for it.
I mean, yes, it was like then when all the laptops gone, everything
Right.
gone. I was like, dude, and,
And
and it was funny.
that's the daytime.
It's a daytime. It was daytime. It
Yeah.
was in them. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Gone. Windows bust out. Brand new van. And I'm like, I said, what did I tell you? I said, this has come out of your pay. The poor kid. It was his first tour. I was like, I'm so angry with you. And it was like, I said, I specifically told you 3 times, do not leave any of that. He left his MacBook Pro sitting on the dash. They were like, click. Like they didn't even.
You
I,
guys were parked
probably
down. Were you guys playing the Moore Theater?
yes, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And you know, man, like it's such a wonderful city. I'll tell you though, but I did go when I contacted the cops and stuff. I went into a dark underbelly area of that area to find the seat. He says, "Listen, if someone has your stuff, here's where all the homeless drug addicts go. They go to this diner place, and they just let these people hang out there." And I'm looking around, dude. It was the darkest energy I've ever been in my life. Looking around everyone's bags, looking to see if I can see any type of computer. I can just stomp somebody out and just like start like pounding somebody to take my stuff back, you know.
Right.
And but it was I've been in some dark situations. That was one of the darkest areas. I don't even know where I was. It was somewhere in that area, but it was like it was bad. It was
In
like
Belltown. What year was it?
2010,
Okay. I think,
around 2009, 10. I think because it was one. Yeah, you know what?
buddy,
Actually,
it had cleaned up a lot by then.
yeah, that's what I heard. It was bad. But the thing was, I'm wondering. You know what? It actually wasn't with Candlebox. It was with a band that Kevin fronted. It was called The Gracious Few, and it was with
Oh
the
yeah.
band. Yeah, live, and I did a tour with them, and it was like
That band was
it
cool.
was it was a great band. And Kevin's really nice, and we've written together. We worked together and had different bands or like different like bands that we were writing for and stuff. So we became friends, and just to he put it. I say, can I do a bio on some of these dates? This girl I'm working with, I'm kind of doing the day to day for her, and he put us on those dates. I think we did some dates with I think Hailstorm that well, and then Fuel. So it was like, but we yeah, that's my story about Seattle. Like I love Seattle. Yeah, that's for that was my bad experience. Only one,
Nail it down. Nail
only
the
one.
shit down. Yeah.
So
Sorry about
anyway,
that.
that's where we're at, man. So
Sorry, bud. But
that's okay.
you're in Pittsburgh, right? You live in Pittsburgh?
I am. I moved back. I lived I'm living back here for 7 years again. I moved back from Los Angeles, and you know, uh, this is where I still keep my toe dipped into with the national stuff, and and there's not much going on, of course, as you know, especially this past year with COVID and everything. But so I came back here and I hit the ground running, man. I was like, look, I don't know. I was in LA and I was working like a dog, man. I was in the studio 4 days a week. I was the dean of a rock and roll department at a music school in Orange County, and I was touring and then playing, like, when I wasn't touring, 3 nights a week with guys from, like Eric Dover and Coco and those guys, to be Paxson up at, like, in Manhattan Beach. Like, I think the drummer before me, I think, was in that band was Todd Sugarman, and it was like a lot of big shoes to fill, man. It was like, but it was a good cover band. So I did that, and then Jimmy Paxson who was Stevie Nicks' drummer. He would call me, and so we'd swap the dates when he was not on tour, or vice versa. So I was doing that and then playing. I just, keep myself super busy out there, but you know, kind of like was to the point where I'm like, I mean, I play with all my heroes, did all this stuff. I feel like I'm just like a kind of glorified roofer. I can't get any. It was just, I feel like I did all I wanted to do. And I don't know if that's actually really true. Maybe I was telling myself that in my mind. But once I played all the big TV shows, all the late night talk shows, and did the country awards, I was like, where am I going to go with this? I got to play for Paul Gilbert, and George Lynch, and Gilby Clarke, and John Waite. And I was like, they're all my heroes. I had them on my bedroom wall when I was a kid. And I'm like, and I got to do all the big TV shows, Letterman and Kimmel, and The View, and Country.
There's a funny thing that happens when you realize you've done almost everything you fantasized about as a 16-year-old kid, except for get rich.
And that's the truth. It's, you get to that point, like, I've always been, and I'm not complaining, and I've been overly blessed, for a kid from the suburbs. Teetering, I went to city school my whole life, and around a rougher bunch of people. We, you fantasize of being like, I'm gonna have a mansion. I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be a rock star. And you're thinking, well, it's either I go play baseball, which I wasn't good enough to do anymore, and I'm only 5'8". How many pro baseball players are 5'8", or anything? Any pro athlete
wasn't a giant man.
Yeah, but few and far between, but I think that you get to that point, like, look, man, I just want to my passion was always rock and roll, and it was like, I mean, I remember playing, being like, well, okay, I started playing drums when I was like 2 years old. And
yeah, let's start at the beginning, and let's work through chronologically here. 2 years old?
Yeah, I was two, and my brother, who's 4 years older than me, he was playing, and he took lessons off my amazing cousin, who is the reason why I'm playing drums. My cousin Alan Muckle is a beast of a drummer, and he lived 3 doors up from us, and they had a disco cover band, top 40 cover band, like in the mid 70s throughout the 1980, and they were like, and they rehearsed there like 2 days a week. If they were, well, if and back in those days, they were playing, they'd set their equipment up in a Holiday Inn and have 5-6 nights in a row. And
those were the
and they played every night, and then they went to the next venue and set up for 5 nights straight there. So it was, but
you were making more money than probably touring bands too.
That's what's funny is we talk about that, like, I have a threshold where I'm like, at a certain degree, I will not go out of my door first, and
yeah, man,
yeah, and I don't seem to sound, I don't want to sound snobby, but it's like, I don't want to go out, but I'm so gracious as because of COVID. I mean, I still worked almost through the whole COVID thing, like teaching 40 plus lessons a week. I'm very blessed. And let
me hit the corner for a second, because I want to ask you a question really quickly. You said at 2 years old, your brother is playing drums. Your cousin, a couple doors down, is playing drums. He's got a disco cover band. And when I hear you, where I see these things that you post, I mean, it was like getting a dose of smelling salts when I got your drum tracks for When Will I Be Loved, because your groove and your pocket was deep. It was like
Thanks.
top
Thanks.
notch, top notch.
Thanks, man.
I was like, holy, who is this fucking guy? And and so as I watch those videos, I see you playing a variety of styles and songs, and every one you crush with conviction. But one that is hard for guys who can do rock really well is is like dipping down and playing that groovy like disco dance music.
Yeah.
But you kill it. And do you,
Yeah.
you
That's where that's funny. We're talking. That's where I. It's funny. We're back. So what happened was how I, where it all started was my cousin playing that kind of music, and that's what we were exposed to. And my parents, they were like, at that time they were still, and they were going out and still doing the disco dancing thing, and it was a big thing then. I was into Kiss, Alice Cooper, and Ted Nugent, and that's kind of where I was like. I mean, I was like, those were the three, and I was like 3 years old. I remember seeing Kiss on TV. That one of the first times, and I was already playing drums on Tupperware bowls. You know, watching them and see it was like. But my parents like, listen, they hated that stuff. And like, listen, kids in Satan's service. I was like, sign me up, okay? Let's go. Put the upside down cross on for it. Let's go. But the disco thing was like deep rooted because my godparent, they owned a vending machine company who lived on the same street as we did, and anything that they had, it was like old 45s from the jukeboxes. They'd give them to me. They'd say, "Okay, we don't use this anymore." It'd be skips and broken record, and anything I could stick, I had play, and I would just put it on my little Radio Shack record player and sit it on the floor tom. And I'd never use the floor tom, and I would just play kick snare and hi hat, man, and it was all that disco stuff. And that's where, like, when I heard "Freak
so
Out."
before you're 5 years old, you're learning these, like it's just built into you to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was that was where I started. That was that's where the deep rooted thing was. With That's where I started learning. I really learned how to play drums to disco 45s. That's kind of where it all started. And although I had no access to getting in Kiss albums at that age, or Ted Nugent. But then when I'd hear the stuff on the radio, it was like. But I mean, that's where my heart was. But I mean, when I go back, that's where it all came from. It was all from the dance funk grooves
Right.
of that time period, and it was old. Like I used to learn these songs, it'd be like "Freak Out," and
Oh, yeah.
I learned it through the skips. And my ear was so acclimated, and it was like, and I was doing these, and I didn't know I'm playing Celebration, and it's like it's skipping, but that's how I learned it, and pretty funny.
When you played it with other people for the first time, and was that a weird thing to get past?
Well, what's funny is that when I think my cousin would say, "Hey, listen, those songs they're not supposed to play that with the skip." Now, unfortunately, he says it's like a blessing and a curse. Your ear was so acclimated to that stuff. It was like you know, it's kind of funny. But when I was able to understand it, like 5 or 6, by that point, I was already playing set at that point, and I am, and it was like what was funny is I couldn't reach the pedals, so I'd have to stand up and play, lean on my left leg, close the hi hat clutch so the hi hats would close, and I'd play my kick with my right foot. So I was leaning on my left leg,
The hi-hat is
you
like
know.
eye level for you.
Yeah, man, and it was interesting, but then, that's kind of how I learned how to play, and then and then yeah, that's where it all started. It was actually truly that old funk stuff. It was really, you
That's
know, you
nuts.
know, yeah, and Stevie Wonder, "Songs in the Key of Life." I played that album. I think I had that on a full album. My parents had it, and I think I played that so much and played it over and over. And I was like, I could play a whole set of that whole album from that, start to finish, no problem, like left-handed, probably. You know what I mean? Because it's so deep rooted. You listen to it so much.
Your folks were were decidedly against Kiss and rock music. I mean, there was some pretty sketchy imagery, and what kind of music were they listening to?
Well, it was like they thought disco was the most safe thing. That was fun. You know, on the surface,
Little
it's
did
all
they
fun.
know,
It's the most like you know you know,
debaucherous.
debauchery, like, I mean, yeah, cocaine, drug use, and sex in the clubs, whatever. I mean, it was horrible. They didn't know that. I mean, at
Right.
this point, they were born again Christians at this point, and so when you're around that, like, that first inkling, when someone they start their walk with God, they get fanatical and they get a little weird.
Sure.
No offense to anyone. Yeah, I did it too. So you start when you
When you do
you
anything at first, I mean, you have to fully indoctrinate yourself hard.
yeah, the pendulum has to swing heavily. It depends where your life is. If you're
Right.
if you're over here, man, and you're hanging in the darkness, and you want to be good, and you ask God to help you out, man, you have to have that pendulum swing that. So it is, and fortunately, man, I've come through. My parents have just been, they're wonderful. My whole family's really, they walk the walk, man, and they're good people, and that's what kind of kept me grounded through all, the touring and whatnot, and brought me back to what was supposed to, the good roots and stuff like that, and back to God. So, but they were into disco. They thought that was fun and it was easy, and they weren't really, they weren't engulfed in the whole scene, So
Right.
that's what they listen to pop music. They're 33, 34 years old, and having me, I'm 4 years old, whatever it is, or they maybe at that point 37 or so. So I was the last one born out of four kids. So, but man, yeah, they listen to that, and then they were getting into the whole church thing and listening to more like contemporary Christian stuff, and
Can't
which
stand
yeah, it's it was so bad back then. It was like it's come such a far way, Christian
it.
music.
Yeah.
Oh, was it bad? But so I think the first time I think how I was exposed to Kiss was, I think I saw, and I don't recall exactly what it was, and I want to say it was a Dick Clark thing or something. I saw them on this thing, and I remember seeing Peter Chris smash in the drum set, and I was like, and it wasn't, I didn't even care about his playing, but I I watched Gene Simmons and like basically blowing fire and spitting up blood, and I was a weird kid. I was like into like Dracula horror movies, Amityville horror. I was like this weird kid. I'm still like fascinated by Charles Manson. I'm really into that weird stuff. I don't know, but I was always into like Ozzy and and Iron Maiden, Kiss, Motley Crue, and all the bands that had that kind of like dark entity around them or whatever, or what they portrayed at least. And I
Right.
was into this thrashing killer drummer. All the drummers from those bands are all pretty solid. Like, I mean, Eric Carr especially, as opposed to Peter Chris. But yeah, when I saw Kiss, I think that's when it was like, I didn't know, it was like a horror movie, like scary monsters playing rock and roll, and I was like, this is it. This is the best thing in the world. So where do you go from here? Like, and so that is where, and I wanted to be Gene Simmons behind the drum set, and I was like, this is it. That's how I wanted to be, and it was like kind of where you know, I just went, really, really was like that was my band, and still is my band for you know being 47 years old. I'm like, man, this is like still my band. Doesn't still love that. I still go to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
So, God, it's remarkable that you started playing so young, but it like a lot of things make a lot more sense to me right now all of a sudden. Um, when did you when did you graduate from playing with the records to playing with other people? And was that with your family?
well, it was you know, the first time I played out, I think I just turned 6 years old. I played with my cousin's band at a wedding, and the first song I ever played was the SOS band, uh, "Baby We Can Do It." Take your time, do it right.
Ah,
That's the first tune I ever played out with his band, and I remember being, I was. I have a huge family, so it seemed like every year someone was getting married. And back then they didn't have DJs; they had bands, you know. So my cousins and my uncles like, get Maddie up to play drums, get Maddie up there. So, and like then they'd be like, hey, do you want to play a polka? And I'm like, a polka? Like, oh, what's a freaking polka? My cousin's like, no, he's playing rock and roll. So I'm like, hey, do you know the party's over from Journey? And they're like, yeah, do you? I'm like, well, let's. I'm like, I started off, and I was into that. I was really just engulfing myself into like rock and roll at that point. So yeah, so the first thing it was I kind of, and I was still playing to. So I graduated from records, then to cassettes because they didn't skip, you know. And so, and I think, and then I heard AC/DC. So that was a very interesting. I heard Back in Black, and I didn't know I was about 6 or 7, and and it was weird. I heard it, and I went to the local, like it was like the Target back then. It was called GB's in the North Hills of Pittsburgh. Okay, and it was like a variety. Like they had everything from clothes. It was like a I don't. Yeah, department stores. But they had they had records. They had stereos, everything. So anyway, so I went and bought with my own money for $6, 30 deeds. And man, and I just, dude, when I put that on, it was like, what did I come across? I didn't even know. It was like this, dude, as I said, it's like electrifying, man. When you hear music, it's like, it's such a great energy, man. Like, it's like, it makes you feel so many different things. So that time I was like, I'm just learning that tape the whole way through, man.
And everything you'd been listening to and everything you'd been playing, that has explosive, aggressive energy and sounds.
Yeah, and being a 6, 7-year-old, you're like, dude, this is the most. Being exposed to that for the first time, you never heard that, and you're like, so it was like, then it was, you're like, then the lights start coming on, and then
Van Halen,
and then Van Halen, okay, boom,
knew this
right
was
there,
coming,
right there, man, okay, right there.
I knew it was coming.
All right, so this here, man, like it was like, I love talking about this because it's like. I was just talking to my pastor today, and he's a big Van Halen fan. And we were talking about this after church. He says, there's never, ever going to be another Van Halen. No. The hardest working band. I said, and I showed him them. I think I sent it to Keith Nelson. Keith goes, oh, I was at that tour. And I was like, I hate you. It was 1984. and it showed them opening up with Unchained. And the crowd was already going crazy. And I have to send you this link. And then when he does that, and David Rock jumps off the drum riser, man, and spreads like the crowd. I can't tell you just off my phone the energy, the goosebumps that go up my freaking. It's like, holy heck, this will never happen again. But it's great to have that, that reference and see that. But when I first heard Running with the Devil. Yeah, I heard it on the and I was like, and it wasn't even the drums because Alex was my favorite drums. Boom, 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 boom. And he goes, oh! And that thing, it's like bone chilling. It's like, dude, you're like, what did I just hear? The best guitar sound ever. Like, and I'm like, I don't know, 7 years old, man. So that's where, and it was like Van Halen, boom, boom, all the way. And then that's where I really started becoming a better drummer. And then I realized, they already had Van Halen 2 out, and then, Fair Warning and our Women and Children First. So those were already out. And then I think, then Diver Down. And I didn't start buying all those cassettes. Then having a double bass kit, trying to like work double bass. It was being 10 years old and then trying to learn Hot for Teacher was like, so I just sat there and just engulfed myself in Van Halen, man, forever.
You were 10 years old learning Hot for Teacher.
Yeah, it was a mock version, but you know, I was really, you know, trying to emulate him, you know, and you know, and then you in the back then, remember, you didn't have YouTube, of course, or even MTV was sparse, you know,
Right.
and you didn't see him playing Hopper Teacher. Like they didn't even do a video for it, really. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so
No,
you're
there was
trying to
no
use,
performance.
yeah, yeah, and I was 10 years old. I was going to any concert back then. Just my parents let me go there anyway, where
Right.
they taking me. However, man, it's just. I think that was probably the best time. You know, when you think about it, it's like anticipating Christmas. Like you know, you're excited for Christmas Day, and then you get your gifts and you open them up. It's like, oh, it's great and all, but it's the excitement, you know. But that my thing when learning these songs, I was
The
so
tape.
excited to learn. You know, it was just like, wow, this is great. This is my destiny. I'm supposed to do this, and and I stuck through it. Even playing like you know, playing sports growing up, man. I was like, man, I always that was always my passion to come home, play drums, man, and and that's what it was, man. My parents were supportive as far as that went, and my family, because I come from a musical family, but yeah, that you know, it was they like I said, they were concerned about the heavy metal thing, of course, man. You know,
Right.
as it is, but you know, it is what it is. You know, it's you know, I'd say to my dad, listen, it's not about these lyrics. It's about the crack of the snare and that guitar sounds like, and you know, and you're hearing like, and I was totally in like, you know, after I went from Van Halen, those like Ozzy Bark at the Moon, you know, and Ultimate Sin, and then you know, Iron Maiden,
I mean,
and
with
then
names like Ultimate Sin, it's just begging for parents to say no. You
like
know.
dude, no, yeah, exactly. And I just think it, and what's so funny about all this music, it's like
But the
doing,
Ultimate Sin is about nuclear war.
yeah, and that's the
So,
they don't, and that's the imagery, like you said, it's
right.
pretty over the top, and it's what they did. They engulfed, you know that, and they indoctrinated you with like, you know, the devil and stuff like that. But
Turns out
it's
Sharon's
exactly what
always
it's about.
been
Yeah,
Sharon's always
yeah.
been a good marketer.
She's great. Yeah, she's smart, man. Well, she was. You know, it's funny. I sit there. I think, man, he really had a pretty amazing career. You know, I see him now. I just, it's kind of pitiful. You feel bad for him. Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
But he was. I tell you, I sit there. I listen to like the one track he did. And I'm jumping rails here, but like, I don't want to stop that track. You know, do you know that track? It's
oh,
it came out about 10 years ago, maybe.
oh, I
And
don't know.
it's with Zach Wild, dude. It's rock. It's like
Oh,
that eighth note rock thing. It's like, you know, let's just talk about eighth note rock and roll. It's a lost art, man. You know,
yeah.
I mean, that's why I love like Keith Nelson and like with Buck Cherry, what he did with that. It was like, you know, he really he brought that back to life. He resuscitated it, man. You know,
For
um,
sure. No,
um,
I mean, yeah.
and just so it was like one of those things where you're like, but there's nothing like that straight ahead eighth note rock, like ACDC, you know, and you know, when Van Halen would nail that stuff, it was like, and you know, when you hear that stuff and it's pumping, man, you know, and so it's like it's just there's that energy, man. It's just it's what it's supposed it does what it's supposed to do, right?
L-
You know.
Let me ask you a question. I want to roll back. I'm gonna reel it back for a minute.
Mm.
So you're 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and you're playing along to these cassettes. You've got your drum kit set up in your bedroom or the garage or something, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got
Yep.
headphones on. You're not blasting. You just got headphones on and playing along.
Yeah, yeah, I both headphones or you know, actually, and at one point I even had a PA, so I was playing to that, you know,
Just
just to feel
blast.
the energy because I had, you know, that time there wasn't a lot of people to play with, you know, you know when you're 10, 12 years old, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's my question. There's no internet at this point.
Yeah.
You either are fortunate enough to be able to get lessons from someone to teach you technique and show you how someone is doing, like you take them a song and they're like, yeah, that's what he's doing. Or
I taught myself actually. I never took lessons.
or you sit there and you're like, okay, that's what it sounds like. What do I do? You just start working. You put in the hours and the work. How, I mean, how do you think that that affected the way your technique came together and your feel in your pocket, everything overall? And how do you think that it would have been different if you grew up in the internet age? Like, do you think that you had a harder road but an advantage toward having a like a deeper rooted rhythmic connection to a groove than someone who just pops on the headphones, dials up something on YouTube and is like just copycats it?
You know, that's a great question. I would say I don't look back at it and take, you know, and be like, boy, I was, you know, I was shafted.
Oh,
And
no.
I'll say to my students, like, you don't know how nice you have it. Like, I'll
Yeah.
sit here and I can write these each part off you down to, you know, to a T and make it, you know, make it easy for you. You can read it, and I can send a video to you during lessons. We do a video, and you can take it home, watch me how to play it, and exactly how I'm hitting the drum. So, you know, I think to answer your question is, I think it was an advantage. I really, it was, I had a passion, and I think that lacks when a lot of people's playing, you know, because today it's so easy to get access to learn how to do it. You know, when you learn and absorb something, let that get in your soul, man. You know,
Yeah.
and you you feel it. It's after all, it's called what a great feel that person has is playing. You know, he or she, and yeah, man. I mean, yes, I think that that's probably become more deep rooted because I sat and absorbed it and listened to it over and over. Start, rewind, play, stop, rewind. But what the heck is he doing there? And 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 then what happens is it just becomes, you know, I found out, you know, being like a guy who, you know, Eric Singer said something, and I don't even know if he remembers. He said this about me, but when I got called to do these, I played for this actress Kristen Chenoweth. I played a show with this dude Brent Woods and Scotty Griffin from LA Guns, and Brent's the guitarist for Sebastian Bach, and he's great rock player, and he was the music director for this. So it was like funny. We were talking about doing gigs together, and you're like, you're doing these you're playing a cover gig, and you're going from doing, you know, you know, Gary Wright to Van Halen to you know, Jerry Rafferty, you know,
Right.
and you're nearing it, and it was like, and someone saying, hey, you know, call Matt Muckle. He's one of the most like Swiss Army drummers out there. He can morph himself into anything, and it sounds authentic. And boy, that's what a feather in a cap. Like you know, I was like, boy, that's a really nice thing to say about somebody. Like, you know, and I really thrive on that. I really try to, if I'm asked to play a swing beat, man, I try to absorb it and really try to play that like as if Gene Krupa played it, you know, or try to get as close as Buddy Rich. You know, I'm saying, you know, we try to swing that thing and get that pocket, and then I'm not saying the chop wise, they were just off the chain, those guys, but you know, off the chain. But my point is really trying to, you know, accomplish the feel of it, the groove, and make it authentic and make it sound like a jazz drummer playing jazz rather than a rock player playing jazz, or you know, a rock drummer trying to play a blues shuffle and playing with dynamics and feel and sway. You know, um, don't be a rock drummer. You know, it sounds like a rock drummer when you're playing different styles. But that's where my heart is, rock and roll, of course. Um, and so I try to make sure that when I'm asked to do something, hey, it sounds like producer will say, hey, can you play something like this? I'm like, give me an idea. Who are you thinking? Give me a drummer, and they'll tell me. I'm like, And I go on my mental Rolodex. I'm like, oh yeah, I can play something like that. I'll go back and reach back with all my might and to like, and say, oh, if he would have played drums on this track right now,
Right.
Steve Gadd would have played this, and you try to pull those flavors out, and that's one person told me, my baseball coach in high school who got me into playing rock bands. He said to me, dude, he's like, you need to listen to every style of music. And he was playing in like two pretty big bands. I was 16 years old, and he was like maybe 8 years older than me. And he said, you need to listen to every style of music, absorb it, make it. You gotta and be it. He's you can't don't try to he's like, make
Right.
sure you
Own it.
sound like that. Yeah, man. So it was like that stuck with me, man. So I was like, I was glad I took that advice and was, had half a brain back then, and
Well, it
actually
certainly
was
sounds
able
like
to.
you took it to heart, man, because
Yeah.
when I hear you play drums, I'm convinced.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
I hope so. I got you all fooled.
convinced.
Yeah,
what
but
what's the
yeah.
hardest style or feel that you've copped over the years where you're like, this particular style or this particular groove was hard to like really digest and let it become me?
It's definitely swing.
Uh-huh.
I, I'm gonna say this because I try to explain why swing is such a hard. You know, it's all about phrasing and it's improvisation. It's not playing the same thing over and over. There's no repetition to it, and it's about building phrases and be able to speak as a drummer and let things build. And it
Swing like
takes
20s 30s swing like that kind of.
swing like jazz swing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When you're in playing it with, so that thing sways, man. And I have to concentrate because it's just something I know it, but I teach it because I have to.
Yeah.
And but that is definitely, in my opinion, the hardest thing that I've had to play and make it sound. That's the hardest thing I had to try to make sound authentic, like I'm like a swing player. So it's hard to stretch into that mode. Like I can stretch and play rock and roll, stretch and play funk stuff and blues.
Right.
When it gets to, the jazz thing, that's probably my least strongest, you know, um, genre. Uh, it's probably the least of the strongest out of those, maybe the drumming, genres. I think that
It's human.
it, what's that? What's that?
It's human.
Yeah. So it gets to those moments but it's like I said, it's that the reason why is because you know I think Mike, are you a little younger than me? Are you how
I'm
old are you?
I'm 49.
Okay, sure, a little bit. So our age, we didn't really get exposed to swing and jazz on the radio.
No,
You
man.
know,
I mean, it was
people,
that was dead except on AM radio at that point.
right?
Right.
So you look at guys that really can play that well, really, right? Most of the guys, and their guys are probably 60 and older. Okay,
Yeah.
and they were exposed to jazz. That's what was on the radio, and you had that was pre Beatles. It was, and all the guys that played, all the rock and roll dudes like Chuck Berry's drummer. He was the first guy that was starting to straighten out the shuffle. But you had like Bill Haley and the Comets, Elvis, all these guys. All these guys, all their drummers were just jazz drummers.
Right.
And it was all shuffle. Well, it's where it came from. It's from rhythm and blues, old, jazz. And that's what you were exposed to. So those guys were all playing that stuff. It was just jazz players hitting a little harder, playing the backbeat on 2 and 4. Then, and it started to taper off, you know. And then you had the guys, it kept the blues rock and roll thing alive. And then you had like Van Halen bringing the double shuffle in, you know. So you had, and it was like blues on cocaine, man. It was like, flying. So,
Actually.
you know what I mean?
I,
So, but I think that's why people that are younger, like this is how I just try to connect the dots, like why it's so hard for younger people to play swing They're just never exposed to it, and
Right.
they don't hear it. They hear do ga do ga, or they hear this do 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 do. You know what I mean? They hear that four on the floor, and that's it, man.
Or
And
trap
the
beat.
snare drum,
I mean,
yeah, and
kids that grew up post hip hop, and I love hip hop, and I love hip hop beats, and although I don't love a lot of trap beats, but I think that kids who grew up post hip hop, listen, they hear music differently. It's different.
especially, you know, what's really weird is when you hear, because I produce people, and I'm like,
Yeah.
when I produce, especially girls and stuff, they sing like they're auto tune. They actually sing that they bend their notes, and it's like, please just sing for me. You know, like I
Right.
just everything is so mechanical, and it's I always call it like everything's music from the waist up now. Where back then, man, it's
Oh,
music from the waist down. You shook your moneymaker, man, and
yeah.
it was real. You know,
Yeah.
I think, and that's why you won't hear these songs that are on the radio now. You won't hear them 10 years from now on the radio. I mean, I would probably say, I'd venture to guess, probably not. I mean, let's be
Not,
honest.
not in 10
Yeah,
months.
right. You're right. I mean, so that
Oh, dude,
that's that better yet. Yeah, there you go. So
let me
then you
engage the
hear,
clutch here for a second. On the subject of auto tuning and beat mapping and all that kind of stuff, right? And being on a grid. Have you seen? I don't even know what the guy's name is. The guy who goes in and doctors up Van Halen songs and does all kinds of weird shit to Van Halen songs to show you like how shitty it would sound as killer a band as Van Halen is. Here's what
is
it
it is
sounds
it
like.
is it Rick Beato?
I don't think that it's Rick Beato, but it might be. But he like
Rick, yeah,
I know he does a bunch of stuff, but I don't think this is Rick Beato.
yeah,
He goes in, takes, a Van Halen song, boom, throws it on the grid so that it's like chippity choppity, right?
yeah.
And it's just like the most limp.
Lifeless thing ever, right?
No, it's terrible, man.
Uh, Rick did it with he did it with Led Zeppelin,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was like he did. I think he did Four in the Rain. It was like, dude, it was like so stiff, and it's like, you know, and and by the way, Rick's one of my oldest friends, man. He played in a band with me back in the day, like in 94, you know.
Where at?
And what's up?
Where at?
He was in Philadelphia at the time, and then my band was from Pittsburgh. He was good friends of my lead singer,
Oh.
and he came in, and he was he was in a band that was on Relativity. They were called the Rival Sons. They were called the Rival Sons,
Oh, cool.
and I think it was November Records when he got a record deal, and he was, I mean, I was probably fresh out of high school, like 93 or so, and I met him, and we became really good friends, and he played, and my first band got signed to Atlantic Seventh House for like about a year, so maybe off and on helping us out, and he was best friends with my lead singer at the time, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so, but he was another dude who was really influential, man. Really really was a dude. It was like he was kind of intrigued by rock and roll because he never was wrong, and he was like, wow, like a real rock and roll drummer. He didn't like he's it kind of bit him. But it was funny. But it's funny how we crossed paths and but he did that. And that's what I'm saying. He did that with a Led Zeppelin song, I think, and
Right.
he does a bunch of stuff. And it was like, wow, it's that lame. It's just like,
The
ugh,
worst,
it's
man.
lifeless. I mean, and listen, I do when I produce bands, um, I always say to the drummer, listen, you do you want to I'll do the pre-production. I'll say, listen, do you want to play on this album? And I'm like, it's gonna take a long time. Do you want to so and I'll say, and I thank God for a monster engineer that I have. Matt Vaughn is just a monster, and he's able to beat detect everything when someone can't, because when you're producing something, the drums are the foundation, and if they're not solid, dude, everything's cattywampus.
Yeah.
So it makes it unfun producing bands when the drummer's bad. you know, especially when you're a drummer and you can go in and cut it in one take. You know what I mean? And you can go in and, but you're here to nurture people. And it's so I can tell the difference. I work with my engineer and say, let's use these four hi-hats in succession and let's use these four snare drums so it sounds like a real drummer, you know, with when you're cutting and pasting stuff when they're not on the grid playing, you know, live. So I try to make it as live as I can. I really am a fan of I like stuff being solid on the click, but I don't want stuff being like rigid where it's so mechanical. And it just that's where music's it's just it's I think that's where I'm disenchanted with a lot of stuff where
Right.
things are just really lifeless, right?
Well, yeah, no, it's very sterile. There's a lot of sterility in music, and not just rock music, like music across the board, man.
Across the board.
It's
Yeah.
not dangerous. I mean,
That's exact. Listen, that's what it's missing. I listen.
say what you want
Music,
about the White Stripes.
I
It
love it.
sounded dangerous in rock and roll because, and she's a terrible drummer, but it sounded dangerous because
It's out of control. It's reckless.
it could fall apart at any moment.
That's the great thing about punk. That's why punk will never ever be lame. It's reckless, it's fun, and it scares parents.
And
I
honest,
mean,
hopefully, you know.
and hopefully forever. You know, it's like I mean, I'll sit there like I will buy punk all day long, every day, and I like 2 minute songs. My ADD can't, as you can tell, I have severe ADD. But you can, I can't handle more than 3.5 minute songs anymore. Like, I mean,
How,
you know,
how do you? I mean, do you feel at settled and totally at home? Like I imagine my thoughts jump around a lot too, but when you're settled in and you're focused on playing, does that feeling of your mind jumping around just melt away?
it
Or is
does.
your mind still jumping all over the place while maintaining your pocket? Because playing guitar, playing like, I fucking hold on a just hold it down, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
on drums, it's like you're using more than just your hand. You're using your hands, your
yeah,
feet.
yeah. Yeah, you know, it is. You. That's probably why you know it helps people with ADHD to drum. I have a lot of students that have it, so I relate with them, man. I'm like, and I make it so fun. But however when you get into the groove, all four limbs are doing something different. I tell people, you think your left foot's dead when you're holding the hi hat down, but guess what? It's not. There's a signal being sent to the brain. I got to leave this hi hat foot stapled down right now until I'm ready to open it up. You know, so all four limbs are always doing something, really, at the end of the day. Like, so yeah, I do. It does. It filters. It just goes, or I should say, it just goes away because I'm pretty passionate about when I play. When I get paid to play gigs, man, even if I'm not really loving the stuff, my job is to make the band feel like I'm here to set this band up to win and sound great, and I give 110% all the time when I'm playing because it's important. When I'm getting a paycheck for this, I'm here. It might be an acting job, but you know what, man? I'm here to make people feel better about their stuff, man. I'm just a hired drummer, you know what I mean? When I'm hired, you know what I mean?
Look,
For that.
if you're making money on a gig, do your best because if you don't,
I
you're
can call back.
you're not going to get any money next time. You're not even going to get a call, right?
And listen, it's just, and just be nice to people. What's so hard about it, man? You know what I mean?
Not that hard.
Deal with some people, man. It's just you're so angry. I tell you, man. I'm like, boy, I worked through most of this pandemic, and dude, when I say, I think God bless you. I am. I'm like a lot of my buddies out in California had to move back to their hometowns, man. Do their major drummers,
Right.
major guitar players that are in major bands, and we don't have to talk about them. It's like, boy, man, I'm having these conversations, man, and it's been very trying for them. And um, I've, like right now, I sit there, I'm like, do you know, going, wow, I played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. I taught 40 lessons this week. I'm like, okay, well, this is pretty good. You know, it's not, I don't have to go out and swing a hammer or go out and drive Uber. You know what I mean? Or, you know, ask my parents for more money. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? It's
There,
I'm
we
still
touched
working as a
on this
musician.
at one point. You know, I had a very specific idea of what it meant to be a professional musician when I was young, and that idea didn't even occur to me that it could change for a number of reasons. Some of the reasons, were I didn't understand that you could do both. I didn't understand that I was capable, you know,
Yeah.
because learning learning another learning a set of cover songs, let alone, you know, four sets plus a
It's,
reservoir of extras, is a lot, right?
yeah.
But they
It's a
don't
lot.
do it for nothing. But they're playing covers. I made more money than I ever made in any original band.
It's true. You know, only if you're the original drummer or original guitar player, even if you didn't write the songs and you had your record deal and you were still original and you were able to, and you did have a song on the radio, like I had some success with that. And you know, I, I had 3 record deals, you know, major deals, and I was able to stay afloat with the advance money and stuff. But, but then like, you know, me being the higher drummer for like, whether it's Lynch Mob or John Waite or, you know, even when Keith called me to come up and do some tracks for Buck Cherry, at that point I was the second drummer working for them, and it was like to come and cut drums. You're just you're the hired hand, and you don't make the big money that the songwriters do. So yeah, man, you know, unless you're a songwriter and you're getting the publishing money, um, you know, yeah, man, it's you know, I know what guys are making out on these tours. I did it. I still talk to these guys. I'm like, boy, man, I go out and do a Bowie tribute band who's killing it, and I play theaters all around the country. I make more than all these guys do, and it's like, and it's not dogging them.
Right.
It's their path. I just know something different than they do, and you know, you're just like, yeah,
Well,
you're
the funny
making
thing
more
is, if
money.
you're not the songwriter, you're playing covers too.
Absolutely, that's exactly, you know, man. I thank you for saying that. I play drums in a cover band. Whether like, dude, it's exactly it. It's like wow, and it's you're out playing the greatest hits for, you know, like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna jump. When I got called the drum for Foreigner about for 2013.
Did you do it?
Well, I got called like I was playing with Lynch Mob at the time. We were working with George, and George called me and said, "Hey, Jeff Pilson called me and looking for a young drummer to come out and take the Foreigner gig. The guy's going to go back to American Idol." And my thing was like, "Wow, what an ultimate cover gig!" You know, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I
man.
was like, I know this stuff. I love Foreigner,
Yeah,
and
dude.
and so it's just, dude, it crumbled in right in front of me, man. Like Jeff called me, he says, "Hey, learn the songs," and you know, dude, you realize, and I was like, this is like being in the ultimate like 400 tribute band. Like, I mean, there's only, you know, Mick Jones ain't left, but it was like 30 out of their 30 songs on their greatest hits he sent me. I think there's like 27 that were like top 10 hits.
Right.
Like, I'm like, this is the most incredible job. If I could, so he's like, we're gonna fly you out, and you're gonna come in and do the audition on a during sound check. And if it goes well, we're gonna just keep you out. And we're gonna rehearse all week, and then we're gonna send the other guy back. Well, then after I learned all these songs, they end up taking their old drummer back. Like
Uh,
after I learned all these songs, I was like, F my life, you know. Like, so you know, but you know what I mean. But listen, so fast forward, man. So I get the call to go play for Lou Graham, like 6 years later, back on the East Coast to do, and I did a few days with him right before he retired.
yeah.
You know, and it was really cool. So I knew the songs already. So I walked in
Amazing.
and I did it. and it was so cool. But yeah, man, like when you are, you're just basically, you're a you play in cover bands. You're playing for bands that have big hits, and you're like the
Is
10th
there
drummer.
a guitar player named Michael?
That dude, you know what? He wasn't on. You know what's funny? What I do? Yeah, Michael is that dude's a monster. What
Yeah.
happened was, I think I didn't know this. I didn't know he was retiring. So I guess what happened? I guess that band he hired a new band that came in,
Oh.
and it was like, and we were doing this. He's like, I'm retiring. It was like 2 shows. I was like,
Uh,
well, here you go. Like, but yeah,
better
that dude's
late
a
than
beast, man.
never.
Yeah, right. Well, like grandma said, better late than pregnant, right? So yeah, no, yeah, man, like, so it was one of those things I just didn't like. I was like, man, I really was so excited, like, because being on the East Coast, as you know, there is not much going on here as far as rock and roll goes.
Well, I wanted to
The
ask
big,
about the vibe in Pittsburgh because historically, not really known as a rock and roll town.
no,
Who's
well,
from Pittsburgh? Tell me who's from Pittsburgh.
Donnie Iris.
Right? I do know this.
Yeah, he is fabulous, man, and he's
And I
still killing.
think
He's
he's
like
fucking still amazing.
78 years old and still hitting high C's. I mean, come on, dude.
Right.
And I see him often. And my old manager my old manager, my second record deal. He wrote, hi, Bubba, hi. He wrote Aaliyah. He
Mhm.
wrote like kind of some of his big hits, So, yeah, and then you have there's a band called the Clarks that they're huge here. They're huge, and they had a record deal with MCA, I think, back in like the late '90s. But they get like 40 spins a week on the big rock station here since 1985, and so they're all rock and roll bands. I mean, I like I said, and there was a time in the '90s where like Rusted Root. I played for those guys for a short while too. Rusted Root, they got signed to Polygram, I think, or Mercury, I think, at the time, and they had some success. They're not really heavy rock and roll, but they're, you know,
Yeah.
they kind of have their thing. But like you have some rock and roll bands, you know, uh, that kind of came out of here, like Wild Cherry in the '70s. But they're more, but anyway, yeah, it's not really, when I got my record deal with Atlantic, the first band, it was like I did some finagling, man. I had more of a business sense than most of the guys in the band, and did some cheating. Look, man, as it is, we'll leave it at that.
Right.
But anyway, I knew the business and what we had to do as far as show numbers and this, that, the other, and sound scan this, and so, no, and there was a big scene here. There was bands getting signed in like the '90s, handful of bands to
Yeah.
Atlantic here and there, and it just never got on the charts, But my second,
So you guys aren't far from a few other towns, right? You're a couple hours from uh,
Cleveland,
Cleveland, couple the other direction, a couple hours to Buffalo.
Buffalo's 3 hours. Yep, north. Yep, yep. Yeah. So I played through all those, yeah, in Buffalo, you had there was a few bands like, well, of course, the Goo Goo Dolls. They're from there. I don't know anyone else from Buffalo that was big.
O.J.
Anyone?
Simpson.
O.J. Simpson. Well, he was a piece of work.
He got big.
I loved him in Naked Gun.
Yeah,
I loved him in his Hertz commercials. Remember back in the day when he did his Hertz commercials and
yeah.
he'd hurtle over the, yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, man. So, yeah, and in Cleveland, there's my second deal. We were based out of Cleveland and Youngstown, and we had the band. It was doing really well, and I left my band. It was on Atlantic first, and then I joined that band. I met Buck Cherry basically, and toured with them for like a year and a half almost. Well, almost they hated us. It was like we were idiots. We were like a complete debauchery. It was bad. That band and those guys just had to babysit us the whole time. God bless them. So
you said you're sober. now?
Yeah, yeah, we're. I mean, just and I'm thankful for all that, man. We just there was a lot of bad times, man. Where
Well,
you
I'm sober too, and I for sure understand the idea of going out on the road and being
an idiot.
a reckless knucklehead. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I I thank every day. I'm thankful that I never made any fateful mistakes
Yeah.
because you know
I always say, like, I mean, yeah, thankful for God's grace, man. I'm like always having His hand on me. I'm like, it's a blessing. You in the midst of doing things and being reckless and not and you know throwing caution to the wind, man. Like being young, it was like you know, dude, you think about being spared. Things that could have happened during those time periods. Like,
terrible things.
boy, it was terrible things, like bad situations, and you making bad decisions, and like, boy, man, thank you. Like keeping things together. So, yeah, we're it's great to be alive, and
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand. I think for myself, like, you can like how we talk. You have glimmer and taste of success, and as being a touring musician and having songs on the radio, this, that, the other, it's like, you know, when you think that's the end all be all, that's actually not it. It's like it's the journey. It's like, are you making an honest living, and are you finding happiness where you are, and are you being honest with yourself?
Look, you can make a lot of money and not take joy in what you're doing. I know a lot of people who do it.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, when I look at my students, man, and like I see them that they're the number one drummer in the school band, and they're the drum captain for the marching band, or whatever. I never did that stuff. I never played in the school band. I couldn't read music till I was 17 years old, and I decided to start reading music and going to college for music. Um, it was like I see that and I'm like, man, that's in watching the parents how happy they are. Like, dude, where do you go and you have your job and the kid leaves in a half an hour and the parents come up and hug you and the kids high five you, hug you, like, and they're walking out laughing every half hour. Like, it's like,
Right.
it just doesn't happen. It's like that is it's a blessing. It's just awesome when you get to walk out and be happy and like, that was a great day. I got to work with children, and and teach rock and roll and teach music. I mean, it's like it's kind of where it's at, man. But that's where my heart is now. As opposed to where like what I thought was important. Before I moved back out to LA, when I moved back, I mean, I we I put this band together. I said, this is my last shot. I love teaching, but I'm gonna try my last shot. Try to get a record deal here and do this. And so when it was like it was most at when I got there and got the deal, and then I had Bill Coyne, Kiss's manager, came out of retirement to work with me. Okay, he came out of retirement, and he was like one of my best friends up until he passed away. You know, and I tell you, man, it was one of the most unfulfilled. Not with him; he was my buddy, but once I got that last record deal with Universal, and it just, boy, it was just unsavory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
It wasn't hitting my soul anymore, man. And I was the main writer for the band. Me and the other guy he was in Filter for a while, and I had the guy from Stabbing Westward, and guy from what band is he? He was, I think he's in New Year's Day now, but he was in Static X. So we put this band together, and it was just, it was generic. It was real, but it was generic. You know what I mean? You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? And it kind of was like, well, I finally got what I wanted, what I thought, what I wanted to do, to be one of the main songwriters and be the guy make the publishing money. And I was like, and I have my favorite band in the world, the manager who broke Kiss. He is sitting in my house having dinner a few days a week. What else could I ask for? And it just was like, at that point, I was like,
Fulfillment.
done. I'm done with this. I'm burned out, man. I'm like, So, and then I decided to move back out to LA. Well, I was and I was like, I'm going to be a hired drummer for people. And that's kind of what I did. And then I stayed teaching, but I'm so glad that I stayed teaching because I'm really passionate about that, man. So
Do you see that same spark in the eyes of kids that you're teaching that you had when you were a kid, and does it like reignite that fire for you?
there are times like if you have five that have that spark out of like almost 40 lessons, you know you were very blessed, and when you see that, man, it's like you grab the gasoline and throw it on the spark. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man, it's
um
infectious energy, right?
it's incredible, and to see them come back weekly and improve every week. And there's that, like I said, what's that percentage? Five out of 40 people.
That's about
So
17%.
yeah, thank you for your mathematician
Something like
skills.
that. It's probably 15%.
So anyway, that's pretty decent. So, but I'm going to tell you, like I coach a few rock bands, and I have this band I'm producing. Actually, here they are here. Travolta. I'm going to plug them. Okay.
Right.
They are, and there's a band from Florida called Beautiful Disaster. These young, it's a trio, identical twin girls and a bass player. It's like, and they're young, 14, 16, 17, 18-year-old rock and rollers. They love rock and roll.
Yeah.
Like this band's like, it's old Kiss, it's old, Judas Priest and Motley Crue. And the other band's like all old punk. So when you coach these men or put them in the studio and you're producing them, man, see, like they are just so into it. And it's hard to find that, man. Like to find out what you were like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, boy, I'm living through them now. And it makes me like, weekly when I sit there and work with them for 2 hours a week and I'm coaching them on and helping them write their songs and helping, build their sets and stuff like that. It's like they have it. I hope they continue it, So, that is when you see that when they come and they're there every week and they're here to work and they're excited to play. What else could you ask for, man? You know what I mean?
That's the fulfillment that you were lacking when you were wasting away in that project.
Yeah. It is what it is, man. And but isn't that great? Like, the journey, and when you start learning what you're about and what you really want to be. I love, like I said, I love teaching. I love being in the studio. I love cutting drum tracks. Which, by the way, I want to tell you about this. Do you remember the band Kingdom Come?
Yeah, of course, dude.
yeah, man. So I'm cutting drums on the new album.
Really?
Yeah, I go in there tomorrow to cut 2 new tracks. I did 2 so far, and I'm going to tell you something. I can't wait to send this to you because I got the 28-inch kick drum with the mics in the corner, 2 overheads.
Can I leave this in? It's not a top secret or anything.
Yeah, well, at this point, who cares, right? I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think right now I don't know exactly what's going on. What's going on exactly with James, but right now, like Danny Stagg, the lead guitarist, he is him from my hometown, and he lives right down the street from my studio. So we've been friends for 25 years, man. Whatever.
Wait a minute. Are there other American guys in that band?
Yeah. Lenny was the only guy from Germany, only guy, and JB Frank, Danny Stagg, James Kotek, they're all American dudes. So they're, I
remember when James was playing with the Scorpions.
He was that's how he got the gig with the Scorps. He was on the Monsters of Rock tour with Van Halen, Scorps, Metallica, and Dokken from Van Halen.
I saw it,
and that's they took him. They took him from Kingdom Come, and that band had some, their inner demons. Remember they were supposed. Remember MTV played the crap out of them, and there's like they had 2 big singles, and it was like they were the Van Halen of the '80s, and and everyone talked about it, and it just fizzled. So, but I'm really excited about it. I get to play like John Bonham,
That's amazing,
like
dude.
I get to put my Superphonic up and tune it like John Bonham, and
So
and
you've
they
got a
said,
28-inch kick set up.
oh yeah, that's all. Actually, that's my two live kits, my two live crew kits, two live kits. I have 28-inch kick drums, and then the floor toms are converted 22-inch kick drums into floor toms. So I have my drum tech put legs on it and attachments for the hardware for floor tom legs. So dude, it's like when I hit that floor tom, it's like it's like, and then the kick drum's like, So it's fun, man. So I get to play what I want to play. Um, what's cooler than playing John Bonham type of drum parts, right? I mean, it's so, and they're like, they just wind me up and let me go there. And they're like, listen, we trust you on this stuff. So I'm really excited about it because they're going back on a tour. I think they're doing that ship rock thing coming up soon, with Sebastian and Striper and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm excited to be part of that because I was a big fan of that band, and Dan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I mean, I still have that first record.
Bob Rock killed it, man. On that, man.
Dude, that
Yeah.
album is, and this on that the guitar solo on Get It On is
Yeah.
fucking brain melting. Like I
Dude,
love it.
Danny
That's
Stagg
your buddy. That guy is a Pittsburgh guy.
yeah, man. Danny
Uh,
Stagg is a Pittsburgh
Tell
dude.
him I
He
fucking love his shit.
Yes, and now listen, we'll do a Skype call or we'll do a FaceTime call.
Love
I'm
his
gonna be there.
shit.
I'll be there tomorrow, and I'll do that with him. So with you, he's fabulous. He's very. He's just a well thought out guitar player, man. But it's like I said, this is music from the waist down.
That's
It's all
right.
music from the waist, and it feels like, and it's just has that swagger and that dirt to it, and it's just what music, what we like. And I hope that goes back to that. I am praying to, like, that's why I love like the Blackberry Smoke guys, and like when Keith was working with Buck Cherry when he was doing that was what kind of drew me to those guys. I was just such a big fan um, of what he was doing and keeping rock and roll alive. They're like Tuck Smith. Tuck Smith.
Yeah.
Man, he's keeping rock and roll. I mean, I just appreciate those guys. See that stuff, and it's real. So I just hope that everyone gets a chance to hear that stuff again. You know what I mean? And people absorb it and
Dude,
start.
there's a lot of
And the
static
kids.
out there. There's a lot of things there are a lot of shiny, sensational things that will pull people's attention away from things of greater substance.
It's always kind of been that way, right? I mean,
I think so. I guess so. Yeah. I
but,
mean,
it's more than ever with technology. It's like a double-edged sword. But think about this. How incredible was like I was a little before my time. By 89, I was like 14, 15 years old, whatever. And I missed that even though I was like part of the MG, and I was playing all that hair band stuff and, you know, Motley Crue, Zeppelin. I mean, I was like into that heavy rock thing and just, you
yeah.
know, and Ozzy and stuff like that. But it was like, I didn't get to sleep out for concert tickets. And that was so cool. Like, think about that. Like, everyone goes, I'm going to go buy tickets online. you know,
Oh,
like,
I waited outside in the snow for Rush tickets.
that's what I'm talking about.
You
I
know,
love that.
outside
That's
in
not.
the snow, and it was a village of debauchery. This line started when we showed up the night before, like before the sun went down the day before, and we were like the seventh people in line, and then we just watched the line grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and it was banana. People, I mean, a car blew up, someone passed out,
That's,
and
I mean,
their pants and
that's just
shoe.
rock and roll, man.
No, it was very like a car actually blew up across the street. it was the same person. You know, they passed out. It snowed on them. You know, an inch of
Yeah.
snow on them before someone was like, "Hey, you know," kicked him like, "Wake up, man!" And
Yeah.
pissed himself, threw up, went over, started his car, passed out with his head on the, on the steering
Stereo.
wheel, foot buried on the gas until he blew his engine up. It was incredible.
That's rock and roll. It's so hey, and
Super
it's
rock
like
and roll.
when you watch this, would you do you ever see the heavy metal parking lot documentary?
Oh yeah, you betcha.
That is fabulous. That is like, I mean, dirt bags from Baltimore. Like no one knew like Rob Halford was gay, and the girl's like, I jump his bangs. I was like,
Yeah,
he's gay. He's
yeah.
gay. Yeah, like and it's like mullets and prepubescent like mustaches and guys weighing like 100 pounds with their white tennis shoes were heavier than their bodies. Like
Right. You
I
know,
mean,
I never knew Rob Halford was gay because I didn't know anything about gay culture. I was just like, this is, and I maintain this that, like, he embodies heavy metal. He's like the most
he really
heavy,
does.
like he
Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? I mean, like,
and
it's so funny when you see those old videos and yeah, but he
who
was mad when you weigh motorcycles and leather like. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I've been
Like,
around the world and I've lived in the city and
yeah,
and I just have I'm a cultured fella now. And so now I see all that stuff and
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh man.
Yeah. Well, here, listen.
Why
Tell
was
me,
anyone
yeah,
surprised?" But I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah.
still
You don't know. I mean, well, we were pretty young
greatest,
then.
greatest metal vocalist.
Yeah, and dude, you know what, man? I got to play drums for Ripper Owens,
Oh
who
yeah.
took his place. Dude, that guy. I mean, yeah, Halford, man, he started that crazy scream that man, you know, man, when doing some of those tunes with Ripper, those old Judas Priest tunes, dude, like and hearing him, dude, he's holding the mic out here and like ripping the paint off the wall. It's like,
Beautiful.
dude, I mean, those guys, I mean, man, just you know, amazing singers. I've been pretty blessed working with some killer singers, man. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're like, wow, dude, I wish I could do that, man. You know what I mean?
Wow.
you know, pretty good. So, yeah, man. Yeah, I would, like I said, I never would have guessed it. When you're a little boy, you don't know that. You just see guy comes out with like spikes and leather and pills. He's spinning his back tire on stage, man, and revving the, you know,
Yeah, sick. Still
like
sick.
still awesome. It's like so, but yeah, man, that's back to that's great. Like good memories, huh?
Dude.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm anxious. I'm anxious to see what happens with music. I was hoping, maybe through this pandemic that people get so excited about it again, like back when remember New York had those blackouts and it was the economy was bad, and then you had the disco movement coming out from the downstairs basement parties and heading out to the midtown up to like 54 and that blowing up and a rock and roll being huge again. I have grand illusions of that. Or illusions.
Everyone is saying that this is just going to history repeats itself and the roaring 20s are going to repeat itself and I believe I have no reason to not believe that.
Um, I
No.
hope. Mike, so what are you doing? What's going on with Couch Riffs going well? What are you doing like musically other than this?
Well, this takes a lot of my energy. I'm making a solo record. I've been talking about it for a fucking a little over a year, and I actually have made a lot of progress on it. There's a lot of it's a lot of songs. I don't talk about the details very often, but I'll tell you right now, my album has 26 songs on it. It's a fucking my debut solo album is a double concept album. It's fucking
Wow.
amazing. So
Please call me. I'd love to work on it if you need
I would love to have you play drums on it.
let me know. I'd be happy to do it, man.
I would
Whatever you
be
need.
honored. I would be fucking
I'd be on.
honored.
I'd,
So I'm working on that slowly but surely. I'm working on, and this is something that I'm glad that we're talking about. I'm looking to elevate the concept of couch riffs, and what I want to do is I want to tour it. You understand?
that'd be fabulous.
So
Wow.
the way I want to do this is I want to do a podcast, a live podcast. So I want to do this in front of an audience, either in like a a small
Yeah.
theater or a club or
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
non-conventional space.
Yeah.
Um, so in front of a studio audience, do the podcast, and then have and the my guest will be a local person. So if I'm in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, I don't know,
Johnny Irish.
maybe it's Donnie Iris. Why not?
Why not, man? Right?
And then,
Yeah.
so what I would do is I would enlist a mishmash band of local players, kind of like the videos, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's always a mixed band. So,
That's a fabulous idea. I think that's going to be great.
and then at the end, I have a band. They're there. At the end of the hour and a half conversation, me, my guest, and this band, we knock out 5 or 6 songs, and then we're off and running. It's a 2-hour event, and maybe I could probably do a matinee and an evening show. Stay in town for 3 days, do 4 episodes, and move on.
That's a great idea. And that's great, man. Like, you have a vision. It's like, and you actually, when you think about it, that's it's hard to achieve with a lot that's going on. And I think that's wonderful, man. And I'm here to support you in any way I can, man. I think that's fabulous.
Thanks, man.
I think it's and by the way, we do have to when you get time. I think I sent you, I think I tagged you doing Fastway. Say what you will.
Oh, dude.
Me, you, and Nelson and we have. I don't know who's gonna sing,
Who's gonna?
but
That's high singing.
that's, there's a dude. There's a dude. Well, we could. I mean,
There's a
we
lot
could
of
call
high
Ripper.
singers. We'll find
Yeah,
some.
we call Ripper Owens. But listen, or there's this dude Freddie Nelson, man, who's killer. He sang on He's been friends with me for a long time. I played in a band called Two Tall Jones with him before, but we both when I played for Paul Gilbert, he was he was a singer on Paul Gilbert's album, and he sounds like Ian Astbury and Freddie Mercury. And
Wow.
dude, this guy can kill. So he'd be killer, to use on it. But there's yeah, man. I mean, we could, you know. But I was like, when I was listening to that whole album like a few weeks ago. I'm like, dude, this album's amazing. And I tagged you. I'm like, we're gonna do this on Couchers. Let's do it, And I was like, because Nelson would totally, it's a good thing, man. He'd totally kill that, man.
The other thing I've been like working on is my bass playing.
Yeah.
Because when I got to Seattle, I became a bass player because I couldn't find a guitar gig. No one would have me. I was a metal guy. I was a metal kid with a Jackson in Seattle in 1993. Like
Wow, that's a hard sell.
they were like, "Get the fuck out of here
Did
with
you, did
that."
you did you have the reverse headstock too, like the hockey stick?
No. It was like the pointy down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But do you remember Jackson kind of? They were
Yeah,
the
of
first
course.
one to make the reverse headstock. I'm like, but however, Jacksons sound great. I'm sorry, man.
No, I still I wish I still had that guitar, but
Dude, I'll pull those out once in a while when I'm doing some of these heavy stuff. I'm like, some of these heavy like bands. I'm like, listen, no, we're gonna say you used the Les Paul, but we're using this Jackson with these EMGs there and rip
gonna
people's
be great.
faces off. Dude, it's like it's just it helps.
Yeah.
It works, man, right? So okay, so you
I
start
became a
playing bass.
player, and I started getting gigs, and it was great. That was those all my first shows, all my earliest performance experiences were on bass,
Yeah,
and then and then I switched back to guitar when I finally got a guitar gig and got
yeah,
my equipment together, and people would take me
yeah.
seriously. But
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
always had a passion for playing bass, and lately I've been playing bass a lot more because of couch riffs. And
Yeah.
then only recently I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna work on my bass playing a lot and maybe get a bass gig.
Yeah, man.
Maybe get a cover band gig where I play
Yeah,
3 nights a week
yeah,
and whatever. Maybe
yeah.
I get a call from an old friend. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows, right? Who
You
knows?
just you just don't know. But if
You
you're
don't know. You
prepared,
yeah.
it won't matter.
It does. If you're playing and you're making money, that's how you got to look at things. Like, and there's certain things. There's a line you draw and say, I'm not going to do that. That's something that I don't feel good about for
Right.
my character. Okay, I
Yeah.
can't go and do that for that kind of money. I don't care. So and when you get, I would always say, I would say, I I say yes to I can afford to say no. You know,
Right.
and that's kind of what I would say about it. And I kind of got that part. I'm very blessed, but you don't know, like you don't know. I post stuff when I put stuff on online. I put 15 seconds worth of stuff up. I don't want to bore people. It's just it has nothing to do, like it's not. And I always have to make fun of, like, I'll say, hey, welcome to another edition of Look at Me, Look What I Can Do theater. Okay, like,
Yeah, of
and
course.
it's not about that. It's just I'm like, I want to keep myself in people's faces. Like, hey, I play drums, I do studio work, I play live. Do you need a drummer? That's all I do. People take it the wrong way. Like, you're trying to get accolades. I'm like, dude, I know I can play. Whatever. I
Matt,
I
what
just
other
need.
people think is none of my business.
What's that?
What other
What's
people
that?
think? What other people think is none of my business.
Right. Yeah, right. So, and it's just, I just kind of like, that's what you do. You put your little thing, you put your thing out there and say, hey, I'm looking to work. Hey, I can do this. I can sound like, and it's, you don't know who's going to call you for stuff. Like,
That's
you
right.
know, I didn't think I was going to be playing drums on this Kingdom Come stuff. But I'm so excited to do stuff that it's like, that's really making me happy. I'm really excited about that. Like, because
That's
it's,
amazing.
and it might not be the biggest thing, but it still was one of these things I'm proud of.
A fun
It's going to
achievement.
sound great, you
Why
know.
not?
Um, I, Mike, I'm just so glad we became friends, and we
Yeah.
never met yet in person, but it's good. You're a great soul, man.
And again, I am enamored by your drumming. Like really.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just try my best. That's all. I want to have fun. I want to continue my journey as a musician rather than I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not. How about that?
Right. No,
So
that's a great place to be.
yeah, I still have hair on my head. It's good. I believe it or not, I wear a hat a lot, but I have hair on my head. I can still go out and put tons of hair stuff and go out and play and I'm like, yeah, what's the use? We're just hanging out around here but yeah, I said it's so we have hair on our heads. We're good. We can go out and play cover gigs or do national stuff and be thankful and grateful.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I think I wake up at 6 in the morning without an alarm. It's getting to be late for me, and I've had an amazing time hanging out and talking with you and hearing. I can't believe that you were here's where your hi hat was. Like when you were 5, you were playing like Tommy Lee before Tommy Lee.
I know, man. I have to find some pictures and listen, I had my cousin sold us. He has that kit now. He has the Ringo Starr kit from 1964. That was a kit we had, me and my brother. It was the
Wow.
Black Oyster Pro, and it was like the hi hat was, and I was sitting there, and the hi hats up here, you know, and funny, man. It's yeah, and trying to uh trying to look over the tom was a chore. you know? Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah,
And like
it's worth.
those years of all the years that you've had sticks in your hands are reflected when you sit and strike the kit. Not when you strike it and put it away. Stage terms. When you play the drums, when you hit a drum, it comes across like you've been playing for 44, 45 years. It's crazy.
And like I said, I found thank you and appreciate that. And it's just like I said, I found what I love. I love to play grooves. I'm into Jeff Porcaro. I'm into John Bonham. I'm into Steve Gadd, and I'm into Phil Rudd and Alex Van Halen, Tommy Lee. Those and even like Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins. Those guys. Those are the '90s guys I dig. Really. And at the end of the day, I always say, here's what counts. Boom, crack, effing pay me. Boom, crack, effing pay me. Boom, crack, effing pay. That's it. Like if you can't play that, you're not getting called back, man. So you can play all these chops and all this goofy stuff. It's what's important is, I say I'll tell people what's the first thing you do when you hear music? I'm like, what's the first thing when you hear music? They go, I say, yeah, that's the most important thing. This is the groove. A second thing is the vocals. So as your band's only as good as your drummer and vocalist, So it's really important.
Times on this show, if your band has a shitty drummer, your band is shitty. And they're more important than the singer.
Yeah, and when you have two of those two great elements, you have two of those elements that are great, and they're in the same band. Wow, dude, it's pretty electrifying. You know what I mean?
No,
so, listen, man, I had a great time talking to you. Thank you for considering me and having me on the show, man.
Thank you so much time.
You're awesome.
I appreciate it. Hey,
all right.
Do you have any photographs of you playing? Can you send?
I do.
Email me some high-res photos because I'll chop them up and use them for the different formats and make a couple of different posters.
I definitely will. When do you use by tomorrow?
Tomorrow's totally fine. Yeah.
Okay. When are you airing this?
Probably next Monday.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll get those to you ASAP. Anything else you need, let me know, and we'll go from there. But yeah, man, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I think it's fabulous.
Thanks, man.
And I think it's so nice, and a lot of people have you had Todd Kearns on the show yet?
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's fabulous.
Yeah, he's been in a video as well. He's saying he played guitar actually.
Yeah. But also great. He's amazing. He plays bass. And when I was saying to him, he's at Mouse Kennedy. Yeah, he's great. I was just because I've known Todd for a long time. I played in bands with him and stuff in LA and Vegas and stuff. But I said, man, I was thinking you'd be the singer for Slash, and then now he is. He's singing when Miles is not doing it. But another dude, Zach. What's Zach's last name? I'm sorry. Just on my brain. I'll have to send you his info, man. Zach plays with him. He's in Corey Taylor's band now. Zach Throne. You heard him yet? I'll send you him. Dude. Zach Throne. Yeah, he's badass.
All right.
Now I'll check you. And that's a guy that you'd love because he's such a nice guy. He lived in Seattle for a long time, and he's just got a great energy, and he's positive, and he's fabulous. He's a fabulous singer and guitar player too. So you need, it'd be good. You should hook up with him and
send me his thing. I'll reach out to him. I'm always looking for people to talk to. Yeah.
Hey, I'll let you go, man. Get some sleep. Thank you for having me, man.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Mike. I'll talk to you. Have a good night, man. Bye.
Bye.